These zombies were once locked underground by humans, but the ground cracked. There were hundreds of zombies pouring out. Even humans with plenty of guns can't fend it off. The big hole also crawled out of the zombie Big Mac. It's a fungus-infected monster that hasn't died in 20 years. The army covers the whole body like hard armor. The human race is doomed in his presence. In the chaos, Ellie chose to crawl on the ground. The two Henry brothers took shelter under the car. Old Joe covered their escape with a sniper rifle. After battling to take down a few zombies, they quietly fled the battlefield. The robbers were dead in the distance. The zombie horde begins to gather and attack the city. And the unguarded side, you can imagine it's going to be purgatory. To the fright, for people settled down at the hotel. This bond of life and death let the two adults decide to spend the rest of their lives together to keep the kids from being alone. But inside the room, the little boy looked preoccupied. Ollie thought she was still scared. He comforted her constantly as a sister, but she can't make her happy anymore. The boy lifted up his trousers, showing a zombie bite, which means she's about to turn into a zombie. Ellie had a moment of panic. It was then decided not to tell the grown-ups. He told the boy that he was immune. "I don't hesitate to cut my hand." He smeared his own blood on the boy's wound. He hoped it would keep him from mutating. He knelt down and hugged him silently, praying for a miracle. By the time Ollie woke up, it was morning. Fortunately, the boy just sat quietly. There doesn't seem to be any variation. Ellie knew she was deaf and went over to pat her. There was a dead silence after the gunfire. Henry came to himself. It was a conscious effort to turn the gun on old Joe, trying to protect his brother, but when he looked at his brother's tiny body, he was so at a loss. His brother means everything to him. He has borne a deep sin. To keep my brother alive.
Give me the gun. Give me the gun, Henry. Give me the gun. Henry, no!
Old Joe and Ellie dug a grave and buried the brothers together. There are too many regrets in this world. Some people can live with zombies, but can't live with regret. Old Joe was one of those people. Ollie left the boy his clipboard. It says sorry. He seemed more aware of his immunity's mission, maybe just to make those dreams less frequent. The two headed west. They finally arrived at their destination after 3 months. It was deep winter, then it's over the terrain map and hard to make out. They found a hunter's cabin. Old Joe barged in like a villain, pointed a gun at an elderly couple inside, slowly realized that they were both good people, isolated and aloof from the world. To live safely for 20 years, the old couple told old Joe where the map was, but he warned him not to go any further west, on the other side of a river of death. It's a death zone they're afraid to go to. Bodies turn up all the time over there, but they have to go there. There was no turning back. Old Joe is feeling his age more and more recently. Sometimes one breath of cold air makes you faint for half a day. He made himself stand guard all night whenever he went out into the field. But he would still fall into a coma. That's when Ollie gets quiet. Keep a vigil for him with a crane gun. After crossing the river of death, they were suddenly surrounded by a pair of cavalry. 11 horses and 11 gunners. It all happened in a flash. They had no time to react, but to surrender. The other let out a barking black dog. The dog has been trained, can smell if someone is infected. Old Joe knew he wasn't infected, but Ollie has been bitten twice. Doesn't he smell like fungus? Old Joe was frantic and couldn't think of anything to do. Luckily, Black Dog didn't smell Ollie's problem. Instead, it stuck easily with him. Then Old Joe explained why he had come. They put down their guns and told them to mount. Take them to a settlement. It turned out to be one that wasn't under the jurisdiction of the Federal Disaster Relief Agency. People's autonomous town. There is curtain wall maintenance. There was peace inside, clean houses and lively people as far as the eye could see. It was full of joy and vitality. Here, Old Joe finally found the brother he hadn't seen in years. Tommy hasn't heard from his brother in 6 months. Old Joe was prepared for the worst. Now I see him alive and kicking. He laughed, but his eyes were full of tears. Old Joe and Ellie had a big meal in the village. They had not eaten so richly and civilized for a long time. After dinner they visited the town and learned about its history. Before the zombie apocalypse, this was supposed to be a small residential area. A few refugees settled here 7 years ago. They cut down trees to build fences, receive healthy refugees in the vicinity, ask everyone to do their part. We will set up posts for farmers, hunters, doctors, workers, and soldiers. The population is now over 300. They siphoned power from a nearby dam a few years ago. A greenhouse was set up. laundry, electric, hot water, sewer system, even the cinema. Democracy is practiced here. 300 elected members make up the parliament, and property is collectively owned. It's like a little communist society. It's like Lao Tzu's idea of a small state and few people, but they're more hostile to the outside world. Train soldiers to carry guns on horseback to patrol against robbers, and residents are forbidden to communicate with the outside world by radio. No one can contact you again. South close to the net, no one dares to cross the net, far no one knows. Old Joe became more and more miserable listening to all this, because he crawled his way through hell. Tommy went from a few months ago. I started cutting ties with old Joe. Make the man of dumb die of anxiety. I didn't know it was my brother's choice. Isn't that abandoning your brother, living the good life on your own? Tommy explains. He used to be a robber with his brother, have also killed people, but now he wants to break with the past. He felt sorry for his brother. I heard my brother wasn't staying, and take Ollie back to the Fire Silver lab. He made a counteroffer. Old Joe finally told the truth. Ollie's immune and he's been vulnerable to his brother. Ever since Tess died, he realized that he was getting out of his depth. Weakness and fear, and the heartbreak that comes out of nowhere. He's always thinking about his dead daughter, but in this world, the easier it is for you to relent, the easier it is for you to die. He's afraid that his incompetence is gonna kill Ollie. So, he begged his brother to take Ollie to the Fire Silver lab for him. Tommy was in a bind, but agreed. Ollie, on the other hand, doesn't want to travel with a strange Tommy. In the bottom of my heart, he had made old Joe his most important man. His father is a broken man. Old Joe, how can I feel the love and pain of fatherhood again?
You have no idea what loss is.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me. Everybody fucking except for you! So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
Old Joe wanted to cut ties with Ollie, but after a night of thinking about it, she relented. In the end, old Joe took Ollie himself on the next journey. Because of the location of the lab, it takes a week to get there by bike. The relationship between the two has gone from strength to strength this week, because there's a lot of ammunition and supplies, and there's not a lot of people around, so it became an adventure for two. Old Joe taught Ellie how to shoot. Tell him about life and dreams before the end. Happy times always pass so fast. 5 days later they arrived at the Firehawk lab.